Hey guys, this is Aziz and it is Tech Time. Today I'm going to show you a C++ tutorial on how you can do Roman decimals to normal decimals and decimals to Roman ones. And this is going to be a calculator. This C++ machine problem part series is going to deal with functions and not going to do everything in main. So we're going to go ahead and deal with that. I'll show you the machine problem right in here. This is the machine problem, and the machine problem wants you to take this input, something like right in here. You get this Roman decimal, this Roman, or let's say Roman numeral. You take this Roman numeral, this Roman numeral. You take whatever the operator is, and in this case it's a plus. You add this one with this one, and you get a number that's a decimal. And then you take that decimal, turn it back to Roman also. So you need to show it in both ways. The output would be something similar to this. You show them the first number is the first number that you got, and you show them what it is in decimal form. You show them the second number is this, whatever you got, and you show them in decimal form. Then the operator is whatever you got. Then you have the result is in decimal form, then in Roman form. You show them in both ways, then you get a next input, and so on. This is the input, and this is what I'm going to be using in my um, in my in machine problem. And the requirements here, the problem is to be done using functions. These functions must not reference global variables directly, so we're not going to use any global variables. The prototypes and description below are suggested methods breaking up. So the machine problem suggests you use a get data function, a get oper, a convert from Roman to decimal, a calc Romans, a print result, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this and start with our tutorial. Let's go ahead and launch Visual Studio. Go to Start, type Visual, and there's going to be Visual Studio. I also have Visual Studio 2012, but I'm not going to work with that. I'm just going to work with 2010. Just go ahead and launch it. Here we have it. So go to New Project or File, New Project, and in here you have C++. If you don't have it, it's going to be in other languages. Go to Empty Project and name your project. For me, I'm going to number it just because I organized them, and we're going to call it Roman Decimal Calculator. Alright, now let's go ahead and press OK. Okay, now on the Solution Explorer right here, if you don't have it, you can go to View, Solution Explorer, or you have it right in here. So let's go ahead and right click on Source Files, Add, and New Item. And in the new item, let's go ahead and make a C++ file, and I'm gonna call it main as usual because this is the main file. There it is. Alright, so let's go ahead and start. I'm gonna make the zoom to 180 because I understand that you have to stop the video and you have to get out of it and type, and that minimizes it on YouTube, which makes it a pain to read over. I also have my codes all over indiedevelopment.co. Every video I have, every tutorial, the code is in the bottom, the solution is right in there to download, but I'm also going to zoom in to make sure that I cover it. So let's go ahead and start, and let's include the libraries. So include IOStream is the first library that you have to include. That's something that's we can avoid for this one. We're also going to have to include fstream because we're going to be using files. So input, output, and file input, output, and we're going to use using name space std. This is the usual skeleton. Void main and system pause. In case you were wondering where system pause came from, it came from the DOS commands because let me just show you this. This is a DOS command a console thing, and it has all these kind of commands in them. So system pause, or system, you can say anything. You can say clear also, or some I don't remember it exactly, but I think you can type clear in here and it would clear whatever is inside it. So that's just something to give for you as a tip. So let's close it. Alright, so let's go ahead and remember what variables do we need. But before we make any variables, we need to go to resource files and make a file. So right click, add new item, and the new item, go all the way down, and let's make a text file right in here. Let's name it input, and I just named them input. You can name it whatever you want. For me, I just named them input because it's the only input I'm going to use. Alright, now in here, let's copy whatever the input is, and here it is. Here's the input. You can just type a bunch of letters like this one. I'm going to give you a second to just copy this and paste it in there. MCCXXVI and space, 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 whatever, how many spaces. You can put a whole page of spaces, and then put CV and another whole page of spaces if you want, and then a plus. You just have to make sure that there's a Roman numeral operator. That's all you're going to make sure of. So let's go and save it. The file, like this one, is going to be on my website, on our website, indiedevelopment.co, in the tutorial. So let me minimize it. Alright, so let's go back to main, and let's just drag this on the right here, and make it smaller. Okay, so now we're gonna work on it. So the first thing we're gonna need is open the file. So let's go ahead and open ifstream, and let's make it a name, fn, and let's open the file, and it's in input.txt. Alright, now you have that, and we're gonna have to do let's see if it opens. This is to check if the file is actually opening or not. So let's see out. There is an error with the file. End line, and then put a system pause so the user can actually see it and have a second for it, and then exit 0. Okay, now we have checked the file and made sure that it opens. Just to make sure that it actually is opening, let's change the N to G, and let's compile, debug, start without debugging, and there we go. There is an error with the file. Press any key to continue. There it is. So let's go ahead and change it back. Always try to test your code, because that is a good thing to do. You don't want to test your code later on and find there's an error and you don't know where it is when you have too many lines. So let's comment this and say opening file. Alright, now in here, let's say variables. And now we're going to start with the variables. So always remember, what do we need before we go start? Just like you're building a house, you need to know what tools you need before you start building. So the first thing we're going to need is Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, operator. So the Roman numerals are going to be strings because they are letters, they're not numbers. So we're going to do string, and to use string, we cannot use it without adding the library string. So we need to go back in here and do include string. There it is, that's a string. So now we can use strings, and we're going to call them, here, let me cover that. Alright, we're going to call them string Roman ROM and NUM just for numeral, Rome numeral 1, and then equal nothing, comma, Rome numeral 2 equal nothing also. We also need a character for the operator because it's just one character, it's not a string. So we can do char, and we call it oper, like this one, equal a space, and that's it. It's recommended to use variables like this, like small letter at first and small letter at first. It's called the camel style, which is there's normal, then there's a hump, and there's normal, normal, hump, normal, because that way it's easier to know if this is a variable or not. And it's easier also when you're typing it, you don't want to go shift O, you can just type oper. So that's one way to do it. We're also gonna have to do a couple of other things. Let's open this. We're gonna have to do decimal number 1, decimal number 2. So let's let's go back and put those in here. Those decimals are gonna be integers, because remember, in Roman numerals there are no decimal points. They're just normal decimal full numbers, just real numbers. So a whole number. So we need to do integers. So int, and we're gonna call it decimal num1 equals 0, and then decimal num2 equal also 0. Now let's go back and see what else do we need. So we covered the decimal numbers, we covered the Roman numerals, and we covered the operator. Now the result is there is a total for the decimal number and then a total for a Roman number. So we need to go back and we do comma total decimal number, and there it is, equals 0. For the strings we can do comma and then we do total Roman numeral, and that's it, equal nothing. So now we have all these. We have the decimal numbers 1, 2, and then the total of it. We have the Roman numerals 1, 2, and then the total of it. And we have the operator. So let's go ahead and input. So let's do input right here, input fn as usual, and input first thing is Roman numeral 1, then Roman numeral 2, then the operator as usual, and you close it. So you input this, and then there's spaces. It ignores the spaces. These operators actually ignore the spaces, which I'll introduce to you later on, but it's very advanced, so don't worry about it for now. They just know they ignore spaces and end lines. So ignore spaces, and it doesn't actually, like, I don't mean that it ignores it and goes to pick up the next thing, but it takes this and stops at a space and stops at an end line. The next thing it will get is this. It will not get an end line or a space. That's what I meant. So Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, operator. So now what do we need to do? We need to do the processing. But before we do it, let's do right here, processing. Before we do it, we need to get another input. What do we do then? So we need to start the loop. While not end of file dot end of file, and open close parentheses because it's a normal function, close the parentheses for a loop, open and close squirrely brackets. Now we're going to start the processing inside it. So we need to make functions. But before functions, this is a tip that I'm going to give you which helped me out a whole lot. Some teachers may not recommend it, and I understand why don't they, but it's a good way to start with. So I'm going to show you how, and then I'll let you decide what you want to do. So this tip is how you can make a functions. To make functions, I have made a tutorial on how you can use functions and how you can make them. You can watch that tutorial under C++. It's in indiedevelopment.co and in my website. And other than that, I'm going to show you right in here if you just want to learn it as we go along. To do it, and it makes it easier for you, you can just type it inside main right in here. You type everything and then you copy it to a function. So what is the first thing we need to do? First thing we need to do is convert this Roman numeral to a decimal numeral. So we convert MCCXXVI to a normal decimal number. So to convert that, let's go under here and do it. So we're going to have to start with a whole loop to look at every letter. So we're going to have to start looking at, is this letter, what is this letter? Let's add it. What is this letter? Let's add it. So 1,000, then 100, and 100, and then 5 and 5, and so on. These are not the actual numbers, but that's what I mean. So let's go ahead and start with a for loop. Now for what? We're going to use string size type this, and we're going to call it I. The reason I use string size type is because when you're comparing with a string and doing a loop for a string, the string could be very, very long. Depends on what it is. So the string size type will make sure that it adjusts around that. It's not just a normal number and it might mess up your loop. So this is a good practice to do. Now equal it to 0. It's just like doing int. Instead of int, you do string size type. So now let's go ahead and continue. and let's do I is less than, now less than what? Less than the whole word. So we want to go through the whole word, this word. So let's do it in here. Let's make sure actually I go 200 or something like that. Let's make sure we zoom in. Here's the input, and we're gonna go all these letters. To go all these letters, we need to do Roman numeral 1 dot. Now the dot is gonna give me all the functions that I can get, and we're gonna do dot length. You can do dot size or dot length. They're both the same thing. I don't know why Microsoft has the two functions, but you have both of them. So dot length and open close parenthesis. Now you can have the size. Now semicolon, and then you can do I plus plus just like a normal loop. Now open and close the brackets, and the code is going to be all inside here. Now we can do if statements, and we can say if this letter, the letter that we're looking at currently, is an M. If it is an M, then we can do plus 1,000, which is, let's look at in here. Here it is. M is 1,000, D is 500, C is 100, and so on. And let's close it back. Alright. So in here, that's what we're going to do in the code. We can do if, and we're going to have to do a couple of ifs, because how many letters are there? Let's see in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to have to do 7 ifs. But why would we do 7 ifs? We can do a switch, which would be smarter. So let's go ahead and start with a switch statement right here. Switch. Now let's go ahead and continue with this. Switch Roman or rom num1 dot at. Now this is dot at would tell me that at this position, what at this position, look at this letter at this position. At which letter do we need to look at? I is doing that for us. So at I, close the parenthesis, close it again, and then open and close brackets right here. Now I'm going to explain this. Roman number 1 dot, look at this letter at what position? At position I. Why at position I? Because this position is 0, and I is starting from 0. Then when it's done, it's going to increment it. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, this is the end of it. Get out. That's how it's going to happen. So that at I, now we're going to start from 0. Next one, you look at 1. Next one is 2. And so on. That's how we need to do it. So a good practice to do is doing to upper and then open and close the parentheses right here. To upper, all it's going to do is capitalize the letter that is inside this function right in here. This is all inside to upper, and it's going to make it a capital letter. So even if you do this as small letter I, it doesn't matter. It's going to capitalize it so you catch everything. This is just for good practice. I'm going to teach you, but you don't have to do it. So let's go ahead and continue. Now, in case it is an M, then the decimal number, the total, is going to increment by 1,000, which is what we made total decimal number. So, or actually no, I'm wrong about this. Not total decimal number. We made decimal number 1 because we were converting this to decimal number. So it is the first decimal number. So we're going to do decimal number 1 plus equals 1,000. Now why are we doing plus equals 1,000? Because plus equals adds 1,000. If we do equals 1,000, then we find, let's say we're calling a C right in here, not an M. Then the first one is 1,000. The next one is 1,000. It's not gonna do 2,000. First is equal to 1,000. The next time it's gonna come back and say equals to 1,000. But if we do plus equals, then 0 plus 1,000 is 1,000. 1,000 plus 1,000 is 2,000. The actual thing that's happening plus equal is actually doing decimal num1 plus 1,000, which is the correct. But instead of writing all of this, you can do plus. It is the same thing. I'll do it in two ways just to show you. So this is for the M. Now we have to do break. Always remember that. Now the next one, we're gonna have to do case. It is a D. then do decimal num1 equals, now I'm going to do the other way, decimal num1 plus a whole 500. Now this is exactly the same way as this, nothing different, but I'm just going to do it both ways. So do break, close it. Now in here we're going to do the same thing with other letters. So instead of doing that, we're actually doing it 7 times. So let's just copy paste it. So cover this and then right click, then copy, and then go inside here, right click, paste. And this one is going to be covering C, and C is going to be 100. So just do that, and let's take this off, and I'm going to do the plus right in here, and I'm going to copy that again. This one is just to make it look nicer, and let's do that. This one is going to be an L, and the L is going to be a 50, and right in here this one is going to be an X, and the X is a 10, and the next one is going to be a V, the V is going to be a 5, and the next one is going to be I as usual, and it's going to be a 1. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you have decimal number incrementing. So let's check this out. Cout decimal number 1. Let's see what it does. Now I'm gonna explain this slowly and say first letter is M, decimal number is 0 plus 1000, it's 1000 now. The next letter is C, there is C plus 100, 1100, 1200, because there are two C's. X, 1120 because there are two X's. 1225 because there's a 5 here. 1226 because there is a 1 here. So let's see what happens here. Debug, start without debugging, and let's see. It doesn't seem to have run through it. Let's see why. Close it, or yeah, let's close it and see what happened here. So put a dot. The reason this happened, I just looked at it. The while actually is doing while not end of the file, and we don't even have any code in it. So let's just go ahead and comment this out. Comment, alright. And the comment is right in here. You can just select it and click on this, and it will comment it out for you. So now let's run it. Debug, start without debugging. And here it is. The first number 1226, and it's actually right, as I mentioned before, is going to be 1226. So let's close it. Alright, now let's continue with it. Let's actually uncomment this, and there's uncomment, and let's copy this, all of this. Let's cut it. Right click, and there's cut, Control X, cut it, and now let's put it inside a function. Now we're going to have to name the function, and the functions, always remember this, the functions have to be above main, because it's like a highway. It looks at the first things before it, then looks at main. So either that, or you're going to have prototypes. The prototypes are nicer, which is why I'm going to do it that way, because it looks better and you know what's coming for you. So let's type the function right in here at the end after main. So int, it's an integer function because it's going to return something. Or you can do a void function, which is what I like better. So I'm going to do a void function instead. And let's go into name it. Let's go ahead and name it. Convert Rome to decimal. And that's I think that's a good name, but you can name it differently. And let's open it. Now open and close. Don't worry about this just yet. Now put a squirrely brackets just like any function, and paste whatever you cut before. So right click, paste right in here. Here it is. Now we have a problem. Identifier Roman number 1. Identifier decimal number 1. Why is that? Because we don't see it. This function does not see whatever is inside main, so we have to pass it right in here. We have to remake them. So to remake them, we call what is Roman decimal. Roman decimal is a string, so let's call it string, and let's name it Rome decimal. The reason why I'm not going to call it Roman decimal 1 is because we're going to have to pass Roman decimal 1, Roman decimal 2 through this one function. So let's call it just Roman decimal, and or Roman num actually. Let's call it Roman num, and let's take off the 1 right in here so we can pass it, because it's not going to only do Roman number 1. It's going to do Roman number 2 also. So this, whatever you do in here, has nothing to do with whatever happens in here, and I'll explain to you why. In here, same thing. We have to make an integer int Rome num. That's it. That's all you do. No 1, no 2. And backspace that, or actually not Rome num, decimal num. My bad on that, excuse me. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that for the rest of them. Alright, so now we have all decimal numbers, and same thing in here. Now we have all decimal numbers because it's doing the same thing. Roman decimal number 1 and Roman decimal number 2 is going to do both of them. So we need to do a prototype. To do a prototype, you just copy the head, right click, copy, and go all the way to the top, right before main, and then under using namespace, you right click and you paste. That's it. Put a semicolon. Now to call this function inside the while loop, and remember, inside the while loop we need to copy the input and put it at the end, so we don't we get the next input and we make sure that it's valid. So put it to enters, and now we're going to call the function. We're going to call this exact function. So to call it, we call it just like its name, convert Rome to des, and then we pass things to it. The reason why I named it differently and it has nothing to do with this is because whatever we pass to it, we're passing only the value, not the name. So we can pass in here Rome num 1, then comma, then decimal num 1, and then end it and semicolon. Now this is just passing the values of Roman number 1 and Roman decimal number 1. We have to do it again for 2 and 2 right in here. So it's going to be different when we pass it in the numbers, but the values are going to be passed in here. The names are going to stay in here because we're going to always use it around here. It's not going to be only for Roman number 1 or only for Roman number 2. That's the purpose of functions, so you don't have to repeat your code again. Okay, so now we need to pass things back. We need to pass integer, the decimal number, back. We don't actually care to pass Roman number 1 back, so we don't have to. So we need to just put an and sign right in here to pass things back in here. And same thing with the prototype. Do the same thing in here, and there will be no errors right around here. You're fine. So now let's check them out. Are they actually working? Let's do cout decimal number 1, and then a space, and then decimal number 2, and put an end line right in here. Alright, let's see. Now debug, start without debugging, and here are all the numbers. This number is right because we already checked it. This number, CV, let's go ahead and pull our word sheet, and C is 100, V is 5, so 105 is it? It is. And they're all processing the correct way. There is nothing wrong with them, except for this one is taking the next input twice. We're going to check that out at the end, and we're not worried about it right now. So let's go ahead and press enter. Here we go. Okay, so now the reason for that is I just didn't want to worry about it just because I was testing it right in here. So you can just take that off. Doesn't matter. It's not wrong with the loop. So everything is okay. It's just because this was in here and displaying it once again. So you can just take that off. Okay. So now we need to go ahead and continue. Now we got what is this and what is that. We need to add them or divide them or substitute them or multiply them. And I'm sorry for my English, I'm just kind of trying to go along with it. So let's go ahead and make a function for actually calculating the two numbers from decimal to Roman. So let's make the function right in here. This time I'm not going to make them in main. I showed you how you can do it one way. Now we're going to do it the other way. Now in here the function is going to be made. The function is going to be a void as usual, just because I love void functions and I don't have to worry about returning. So I'm going to make it a void. Void. Now we're going to call it calc or convert. Let's say convert. Um, or it's not going to be conversion. It's going to be calculating. So let's go with calc to Roman. There it is. And open parentheses, close them, then open and close square brackets. Now, what do we need to do? We're going to have to make a total, right? So the total, we called it right in here. Here it is, total decimal number. So we need to pass that to the function. So, okay, let's make it right in here. Integer, total decimal number. Here we go. Now, we need also the two decimal numbers that we just converted, decimal number 1, decimal number 2. So comma, decimal num1, or actually int, decimal num1, and then same thing, int, decimal number 2. There we go. Now we have all of them. In here, we're going to do a switch. Actually, before we do a switch, we need an operator right in here. We need to know which one is it, a plus, division, or a substitution. So comma, char, opera. Now we have opera right in here too. So let's go along with it. Now we're going to do if statements. If we want, we can do if the opera is equal to plus or equal to division. But again, we try to make the code as small as possible, and a switch statement right in here was very useful, so I'm going to use another switch statement right in here. Switch, and let's do opera. We're going to check the operator. Now, in case it is a plus, we are going to do total decimal number plus equals, and then the rest of the code. Or not plus equals, I apologize for that, equals actually decimal number 1 plus decimal number 2, semicolon. Now we can do a break. And the reason I do breaks right under it is just so I can see it visually that there is actually a break, because if there isn't, there will be a lot of problems. So case it is a division or substitution, then do total decimal number equal decimal number 1 minus decimal number 2 and semicolon. So we can just copy that, or let's put a break first because we have two more. Let's select that, right click, copy, enter, and then right click, paste, and enter, right click, paste. Now to make sure that this is formatted correctly, you can just select all of this, go to edit, go to advanced, go to format selection, and there it is, it's formatted for you. So now the cases, multiplication and division, and all you have to do in here is change this to multiplication, change this to division. Now it should do them just fine without having any issues at all. And press enter, enter, and in here we're going to we can do return or cout. Let's do cout, and we can do total or total decimal number right in here, and line. I'm gonna just do them in here before we get to main, just to test it, and then I'm gonna take this off from here because we don't need it in here. But before we do that, let's see what do we have to do in here. We have to actually copy this and put it in here in the top as a prototype. But is it really correct? I don't think it is, because we need to look at this first. What do we need to pass back? Always remember that when you finish a function or as you're working with it, you need to know what you need to pass back. Do we need to pass this number 1 back? No. This? No. Operator? No. We already have it. we need to pass back one thing, the total, because that's what we're making right in here. So always remember, whatever you're working in here is most likely whatever you're gonna pass back. So let's put an and sign, and let's go all the way up and do the same thing here. And sign, there it is. Now we're done with it, and here's the function. You can just look at it for a second if you want to pause and copy it. I'm gonna go up, and I'm gonna call it right in here. So what did we call it? I'm gonna just paste it right in here, and I'm gonna take all of that off and all of this off. Alright, so calc to Roman, open parenthesis, then you can call total decimal number, comma, decimal number 1, comma, decimal number 2, and then operator, close it. Now let's see what happens. So control F5, or you can do debug, start without debugging, and see that 1331. So let's pull out our calculator, start, and type calc, and there it is, calculator. Okay, let's see, is it right or is it not? 1226 plus 105, 1331 is correct. So what about the rest of them? 2, 4, 5, 2, and it seems like it's a division. Divided by 1331, it is a 1, and rounded down. So let's close it. Here are the numbers, and now we have them just fine, no problems. So close it, and now I just noticed that maybe we should make a double. That's up to you. I used an integer. It doesn't really matter which one it is, because Roman decimals don't really have any decimal point numbers, so I'm not gonna worry about it. But you can make the total double if you want. We're gonna go back to calc to Roman and actually take this off, and we leave the code like this, and we go back to calc to Roman, we go back to the output. Let's see how the output is formatted in here. And the output just says right in here, here's the output. I'm gonna just copy one of them and minimize it, and I'm gonna paste it right in here for you to see, and we can compare the two. And we can just take this one off. Alright, here's the output. So we can do this. Cout, the first number is, and we can display the decimal number, the Roman number, Roman number 1. And then put parenthesis and space, and then you put the decimal number 1, and you need to do, actually I forgot to put 2 less thans right here, and then 2 less thans right here, and you need to put this, parenthesis, and period, and close double quotes and semicolon. Now let's go back under, and let's go back right in here, and actually let's not close the semicolon, because we're going to continue with doing this. So double less than, the second number is, and double quotes, and double quotes right here, row number 2, and same thing, parenthesis, space, parenthesis, decimal number 2, and less than, and then space, there it is. And then continue with the rest of it. What does it say? The operator. The operator is, and you can do oper, and there it is. And now the result. Now we don't have the result, but let's do it anyway. The result is, and we can give them a result, decimal, decimal, num, and actually we do have total decimal number. We just did it right in this function. So the only thing that we don't have is the Roman total decimal number. So which was, when I did this machine problem before, when I was a student at this class, CPS 171, it was very difficult, but I understood how to do it later on. So let's go and continue with this, parenthesis, and let's do toad rom num, and the parenthesis, double quotes. Okay, now we're done with the output right in here. Here it is, and I'm gonna I'm going to put it in a function later on, but not yet. So now we need to make another function to total all the output of the total Roman number. So let's go all the way to the bottom again and make a new function. The function, I'm going to call it let's say decimal to Roman, because it's converting the decimal number that we just got to Roman. We're just converting it. That is all we're doing. So we're going to make it a void decimal to Rome, and or we can do to Rome like that, and open close curly brackets, and there it is. Now, what do we need with this function? Here's what we're gonna need. We're gonna need the total because we're converting the total. So we're gonna need the decimal total. So let's go ahead and make int total decimal number. And I want you to get used to this. Do we need to pass it back? No, we're not gonna work with it. We're just using it to convert. So put a comma. What else do we need? We need to make the new Roman number. So it's a string number, and we named it total Rome num. But we don't have to make the same name. We can make it whatever we want like that, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna keep it the same. So do we need to pass it back? Yes, we're gonna work on it, and we're gonna do a cout on it. We're gonna display it. So we do need to pass it back. So let's put an end sign right in here. Here it is. Now we're gonna go with the code. Now just think of this. If you have the code, what do you need to do? So while the decimal number is higher than 1,000, so let's say we have like let's compile it actually. Debug, start without debugging, and see. Here are the numbers. Just because we didn't put end lines, and that's not good, we're gonna go back and work on it. And actually, let's go back right now. Let's go back to the output right in here, and let's put end lines, like in here, end line, right in here there's an end line, and right in here there's one end line, or actually two of them. And then we're gonna take enter and display a bunch of stars, actually like that much maybe, and close it, and then put two end lines right at the end, and there it is. Okay, so let's go back to the function all the way in the bottom. Alright, right here. So debug, start without debugging. Let's see, that looks really nice. Okay, first number is this, the second number is this, there's the result. The result is this number, the total. So while the total is higher than 1,000, then we have an m, because we know the m is 1,000. Then we take 1,000 off. Now we have only 331. So while it is higher than 1,000, then it is maybe a c, because c, or actually an x, or whatever it is. Then we take that minus 100, then it's 231 minus 100 to 131 minus 100 is just 31, while it's higher than a 10, and so on. So let's go ahead and do that. Close it. So we're gonna do that in here. So while total decimal number is higher or equal to 1,000, which is the m, open and close parentheses, and you can do the total Roman number plus equals the letter m, like this. And because it's a string, I use that, but you can do also character like this, and you can actually do characters or strings, whatever you want. But since it's one character, you can do single quotes like around it, and it's gonna add m. So total Roman number is nothing, so we're gonna add m to it. If we just do equals, it's just gonna keep it m forever. It's not gonna change. So this is the same as doing tot Rome num plus this. That's all you're doing, so I'm just gonna keep it this way for this one. And then we have to do total decimal number minus equals 1,000. The reason for that is, after we take the m away, we've taken, or not to take the m away, But the total, right in here, let's see a high total, like this one. The total is so high, or like this one, at 8,000. So if it is 8,000, take 1,000 away and add an M. Then it's 7,000. Take 1,000 away, add an M. So on until it's 1,000. Take 1,000 away, add an M. Next time it's not 1,000. Next time it's 700. Then we take a C away or an X, and actually we put C and then take a 500, and then we add different letters, so on. So close it. And now let's do it again. So copy that code, right click, copy, enter, and then paste right in here. Here it is. And now this time we're going to do a 500, and for the letter is going to be D actually, and in here it's a 500 instead of that. But instead here you can just take that away and do a plus right in here instead of total Roman number plus that. So this way it's much simpler. So copy that code again, copy, enter, paste, and then just change this one to 100 and change the letter to a C. And I'm looking at a different screen to make sure that I have these letters right. That's all I'm doing. So I don't remember it by my mind. I just need to look at it. So 100, and you can just copy all of this. So the next one is 100, and this one is actually the next one is not 100. The next one is going to be 50, and it's going to be an L. And same thing with this one, 50. And I almost forgot this right in here. 100 is 100, minus 100, not minus 500. So, and then the next one, while, and this one is going to be 10. The letter is going to be X, and the number is going to be a 10 also. The next one is going to be 5, then a 1. We make sure the number is correct, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. So it's correct. Or actually, why am I pasted? There it is. There's a 5, and the letter is going to be a V, and minus 5, same thing. For this one, 1, and then I, and here 1. There it is. Now we're actually done with the whole thing, and it's going to display just fine. So we just need to copy this, go all the way to the top, and paste it right in here. Press semicolon, enter. So now we need to copy this. Right click, copy, and go to the function right in here and do it under here. Paste and open parentheses. Now we need to pass total decimal number, comma, total Rome number, and close it. Now let me explain a little bit about the function, about this. It's first going to convert the first Roman number, and first Roman number to a decimal number, second Roman number to a decimal number. So now we have decimal numbers. Then we calculate the decimal numbers. We add them or multiply them or substitute them or divide them, whatever it is, because we have the operator, we have the two decimal numbers, then we make a total decimal number, just a normal calculator. Then we go back to decimal to Roman. This one will convert the total decimal number to a Roman number, and then we have the output right here. So let's quickly make this output in a function. You can just cut this right in here, right click, cut, and you can make another function at the bottom right in here, and the function we're gonna call display output, and open, and then close, and then open close parentheses, then paste it right in here, right click, paste. Here's the output. Now we need to pass things to it because we don't have all this, and the function is going to be a void as usual. I just like void functions, as I said before, and the display doesn't need to pass things back or return them, so it's going to be a void, and we need to pass all these numbers back. So to do that, we have to just do int rom num1, int rom num2, string. Actually, these are decimal numbers, decimal number 2, and then in here decimal number 1, and a string. The string is going to be rom num1, and then comma string rom num2, and then we have character is an upper, and let's see, we still have an integer. Let's add the integer right here just to keep them formatted correctly. Int total des number, and then we have another string right in here, string total Roman number. Now we don't need to pass anything back because we're just displaying them, so you can just copy this whole line, right click, copy, and let's go all the way to the top and display paste it right in here, put a semicolon, enter, and just call this function just like that. Just copy all of this. You can copy it again, or you don't have to because you already have it copied now. Just paste it like that and take off whatever character. That's why I kept them the same name, so you can just do this. Just take that away. Take strings away, and same thing in here. Same thing in here. Double click it and backspace, double click it, backspace twice, double click it, backspace twice, or actually just once, and delete. And take the void away. Here it is. Now it's actually correct and working. You just need to put a semicolon here, and let's see what happens now. Debug, start without debugging, click on that, and here we go. Now we're running into another issue. Let's see what happened. The reason for that is it's just a simple mistake that happened right in here, and C++ didn't actually complain about it, which is something new to me. It should have this right here, minus plus. You can now do minus plus. You have to do minus equals, and for all of them the same thing. You cannot do minus plus, or plus minus for that matter. So I have to go back and do all of these. I apologize for that mistake. I'm just trying to work with it, and it didn't tell me anything about it, which is kind of unpleasant of C++ compiler, because it should have seen it, because minus plus doesn't do anything really. So let's see now if it works. And just these simple mistakes happen. If you have them, that's just okay. Just work around them, and let's do output right in here, and let's go debug, start without debugging, and let's see what happens in here. Now we have all these letters. The reason why we have all these letters, and you see that it went into a big loop, there is a good reason for it, and that's because we didn't reinitialize. That's a good thing to remember. Reinitialize everything that you have. So let's close it, and I'll show you why this happens. See right in here, you're getting a new input, Roman number, right in here, a Roman number, and then an operator. So you're getting all these three, but your decimal number is staying the same old number. And let me show you just in very few steps right in here what's actually happening. So F5, and now we can see that we have CV, F10, and now we make Roman decimal number 1, decimal number 2, decimal total. Okay, now we have that. The first one is fine. Now we get the new input. Now let's see right in here. Decimal number 1, it didn't change. Now it just added on it. It added on this one, and then now we just changed the decimal number total, and it kept adding on the total Roman number also. So if we keep going, let me just keep pressing F10. See how that's keep on just adding and adding and adding all the numbers. The only thing that's changing is only Roman number 1, Roman number 2, operator, and then total for decimal. So let's close it and take off these dots. So now we need to reinitialize them. So right in here, let's go reinitializing. Alright, and here we're gonna do decimal number 1 equals to 0, and comma, decimal number 2 is equal to also 0, comma, and then we have the total Rome number is equal to nothing, and that will fix the whole issue. And then I'm just going to comment taking new input. Alright, so let's go ahead and run it. Debug, start without debugging, and see what happens. here it is. The issue is completely fixed. You don't have any problems. You have the number in decimal and Roman, decimal and Roman, what operator, what what the result is in decimal, and what is it in the normal the Roman numbers. And let's see, is it correct? We have to check our output. So calc, and here we go. And let's open Word, and let's open all of these too. Let's see if it is correct or not. So first it has an M, which is 1,000 right here. 1,000 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100. There it is. Now 1,300. So far so good. X is 10, and we have 3 tens. So plus 10, or let's just add 30 plus 30, and then now we have a 1 plus 1. Now 1,331. That is correct. So let's close it. I1 is 1, and there it is. It's just divided between the two numbers, and it's correct. There is nothing wrong with it. The two numbers are right. And same thing with all of this. 5 minus 2 is 3, and there it is, I, and so on to the rest of them. Close it. Let's close the Word file, and here's the output for you. I'm going to summarize this in just a few descriptions. I'm going to zoom out of it. I'm going to make the zoom to 100, or let's say 120. Alright, so first thing first, you include the libraries iostream, fstream library for files, string for strings. There is these are the function prototypes in here, and right in here there's main. We open the file, we check if it's open. Variables, there are these variables that we paid them throughout the code, and we have integers, 3 integers, 2 for decimal, 1 for total. String is the same way. Operator just 1. We input, we process, we do these functions, converting Roman to decimal, the first Roman to decimal, this one, then this second one, and then we get the operator and we do calculation. We convert the decimal to a total of the decimal, then we take that decimal and convert it to Roman, and then we display all of them, and then we reinitialize and we take new input and process again. Here is the function for converting Roman to decimal. Once you see an M, you add 1,000. Once you see a D, you add 500, and so on till you finish the 7 of them. This one is checking for where you are, what position you are in. So we start 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. This to upper, make sure that is capital letter. Roman number dot at is gonna do that at this position at I, and start 0, 1, 2, 3, so on. Same thing with this. Calculate to Roman. You take the total, or you take decimal 1, decimal 2, and add them, or subtract, or multiply, or division, depends on what. We use a switch statement. Decimal to Roman. While you are higher 1,000 or equal to it, you add an M to the total of Roman number. To the string you add an M, and you minus 1,000 from the total. So the next time it may be less than 1,000, so it's a 500, or maybe it's a 100, then you add a C only, and so on. And there's the output, just a simple C out statement, and that's about it. I hope I helped you guys a lot with this. It actually took me 2 weeks or more than that to make this whole thing when I was a student in this class, and I just solved it for you in less than an hour. So I hope this helps you a lot. If you have any questions at all, let me know. If you have any feedback, I made a mistake or anything like that, just let me know. I'll work on it. I made sure I zoom in a lot, and I made sure that the microphone has a higher listening level. So if you have any questions at all, ask on my YouTube channel or on our website indiedevelopment.co. This tutorial will be under tutorial C++ machine problem series. Is going to be part 4. It's going to have the input file, the Word file, and the solution, and it's going to have the code right in there. And if you have any questions, just ask away. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. It helps me out a lot. And thanks for watching. Have a good day.